Hello, my friends. It is joyous to be with you. Thank you for joining me. I'm not in the Sunshine Study, but if you would love to say hello, I would love it even more. Welcome to my lovely car. I'm in a car park, of all places, because I've been to buy slippers. Why? Because the dog's eaten another pair of mine, even though they were on a height. And to be honest, I could not wait till Christmas to get some more. So there's a little Christy update. How are you all? Please say hello. It's always lovely to have you with us. I've got 10 top tips for making the best decisions you can with the choices that you have in your life. So I hope that will help. We'll just wait till some people come and join us. And if you've got a business, a charity, a cause, you're self-employed, don't leave it for me to remember to shout it out. Put your links in the comments and say what you do, because you never know what that might generate for you. If it can generate a couple of sales, that will be wonderful. I know how difficult times are, and especially if you're trying to be self-employed, put your links in the comments and we will celebrate your efforts and often great creativity as well as ingenuity. If you're just joining us, I'm Dr. Rebecca, the Life Joy Coach and author, and I help brave and brilliant people who don't quite know they're brave and brilliant yet, but transform their burnout into balance to live a richer and more joyous life. So they're more content, more capable, more confident, and actually ultimately lead to living a life that lets their light shine ever brighter. I work with lots of people who have long-term health conditions that need monitoring and managing. I work with a lot of people with anxiety, ME, long COVID, epilepsy, ADHD, welcome. I'm in the car, somebody's just parked next to me, so they may think I've gone a bit mad talking to you, but it's lovely to be with Linda Thorpe. It's lovely to have you. I'm just saying, if you have a business or a cause, please put your links in the comments and we will see what we can do for you. Liv, it's lovely to have you. I'm in the car. Somebody's just parked an inch next to me, just doing the little hello thing. Please don't bash my car. I love my car so much. It's old, but it's mighty, and there have been many happy hours in this car, so it's facilitated great love and care and some hard hours too. So if you're just joining us, please say hello. Please put your links in the comment and we will celebrate you and shout you out. So today I've got top 10 tips plus a bonus and about making the best decisions you can with the evidence available to you. So I have 3 post-it notes that I prepared earlier. I love saying that, I prepared earlier. So what happens in life a lot of the time is we have a lot of choices, and sometimes too many choices can be a lot of a distraction. And I had a wonderful conversation with one of my earliest clients many years ago, and she said to me, I've got too many options. I've got too many coping strategies. I don't know what to choose. I don't want to pick. So what I end up doing is doing not enough, and I feel utterly overwhelmed in it. Now, feeling overwhelmed is a disempowering thing. So I would always want you to feel as capable as you are, but also to know how capable you are. So remember, you don't have to be clever, you don't have to be worldly or full of status or full of money to be capable and content. They are superpowers. So we're going to help you get a bit closer to being the best. Alex Claire Young, I'm so pleased you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please put your work, if you've got a cause or your work, please put it in, link in the comments, and we will shout you out and shine you ever brighter. So we're talking about making good decisions. Now, this is even more important in life if you're managing health, if you're managing limited energy, limited resources, or you're trying to educate people about who you are or what you have to manage in life. And what I've noticed consistently with essentially thousands of people through my care, whether through services, through one-to-one coaching, and the people who've read my books, and an immense amount of struggle, heartache, and illness and suffering, is that decision making, however small, is powerful. And making the best decisions you can, the next wise move, stops a lot of trouble. And when you're limited with resources, or you're doing a precious mission in life, whatever that is, whether that's raising a child, raising yourself, doing a doctorate, running a business, trying to be well when you're ill, trying to look after people, trying to manage tight budgets, whatever the situation is in life, manage grief, manage adversity, really, manage unexpected challenge, is that if you make wise decisions, you give yourself the best chance. And I've spent, much of my life making very difficult decisions on very small issues, which often had very big ramifications. And the pressure and the stress of that, if you get that wrong, for me, was often enormous. And I had severe ME for almost 20 years, which would oscillate into a bit of moderate ME. And moderate and mild are still quite difficult and restrictive. But I've also had very poorly parents and lots of very distressed clients. So there's a lot of evidence there, both quantitative and qualitative, on which to draw. And I'm just about to finish my 5th book, so I hope this will help you. How to make the best decisions you can. Number 1, don't make decisions on your worst days or your best days. Now, obviously, sometimes you just have to. But try and remember, if you've got decisions to make, even the smallest ones, if you make them on your middle ground days, you are offsetting the extremes of both. So what I used to find was, if I felt reasonably well, I would make bolder decisions because I couldn't remember what it was like to be ill. That was a wonderful thing. I have a good memory for forgetting bad stuff. So what would happen is I would often make decisions that would overextend me because I felt reasonably good in the moment. And then there would be consequences and ramifications from that. If I made decisions on my very worst days, particularly at the end of a series of bad weeks, bad months, bad years, is that I made very cautious decisions which were sometimes too restrictive and didn't allow for joy. So what I worked out was that if you can discern the two extremes and find a centre ground, somewhere in the middle with some balance, you have your best chance of avoiding burnout and finding some blessings. So generally, if I've got something very big lurking in the corner of my brain, is I often think, right, I'll see where I am by next week. Norman Walsh, my darling, it's wonderful to have you. We're talking about how to make good decisions. And often good decisions stem from how we use our energy, our time, and the investment we put into relationships and our work and our creative choices. So making choices on the most balanced day, I think, gives you a most balanced outcome. Number 2, what does the evidence tell you? Now, that is the absolute sentence that I spent a long time as a historian learning to assess. You look at evidence based on facts and truth, and a lot of them, and then you think, well, these are the answers that are showing up around me. How do we step backwards from that and think, there's something here that's showing up? Are there 3 consistent themes? Is there a piece of overwhelming information here that I can't ignore? So every now and again, I often say to clients, especially in my coaching and counselling clients, is that sets of behaviour, sets of outcome, sets of feelings are often the external outcome of patterns of behaviour, of patterns of thinking, patterns of consumption, patterns of tolerance or intolerance. What is that outcome is the evidence. So we peel that back and ask the question is, what can we do to make it better? What can we do to make it a bit less bad? What am I doing that I know I'm putting off or I should be doing, or those kind of in-between questions. Nice to see you, Katie. Nice to see you, Tracy. So this is about how to make good decisions. So number 1, for the people who are just joining us, don't make decisions on your best days or your worst days, especially the big ones. Just wait until you're in a centered place and you can make decisions on the middle ground. Secondly, ask yourself the question. The question of historians is, what does the evidence tell you? It's a question of scientists too, in many respects. So there is information available. What are the strands in it? And I find that time and time again, if I make a decision on a balanced, well day, and I make a decision on evidence, that I'm in the wisest position. Now, I have a lot of clients who have to manage their energy so carefully. And what this means is, do I make a decision to go to a thing when I'm on really shaky ground, or do I not go? Or can I go for a bit? There's the compromise. Can I go with it adjusted? Could we put it off? You know, you have to make these decisions all the time that are very emotional because you always want to be able to do more than you often got the energy to do. So there's the thing. What does the evidence tell us? Now, knowing yourself is something that my spiritual director said to me straight away. 15, 20 years ago, she said, the more you know yourself, the better you will be equipped in life. That your spirituality can shine and that you're made in the image of God. So here's the thing. Do you know how you think And is that rational? Is it reasonable? Or are other people running your thought processes? Are your critics running them? Is a nasty teacher running them? Is an overcritical parent or an absent parent running them? Think about how you think, and is that sensible? And you need a balance in life, and I'm never quite certain where this is. I'm open to your suggestions, between your intellect and your intuition. Now, for many years, I ran intellect only, and I would ignore my intuition, and I'd run into trouble. And those sort of senses that you get, that internal sat-nav that I think is God-given, is a very powerful tool. So if you just have a sense of something, then sometimes people do things all or nothing. So it's all intuition, and they have wonderful outcomes or terrible ones, or outcomes they couldn't have expected without any thought to it. Or some people are so intellectually driven that they lose their emotive heart in it. So what I think is logical as ever is a balance between the two. Now you discern your percentage of that balance. You might be a 70% intellect person and a 30% intuitive person. I've known that I've been 90 and 10 for a long time, so I allow my intuition to have a little bit more influence on me, and I try to get to sort of 60-40, 50-50 if I can, but that I am much more tolerant of my intuition now because I know it's a gift, and I generally have a measure of reading a situation quite well. I'm generally quite experienced in reading people, highly sensitive, highly empathetic. I can read a room, I can tell you who's in a good mood, I can tell who's, by the tone of somebody's voice, how they are. So I've used that more and more as I've got older, and it's helped me more and more. And I've also stopped trying to please all the time. I know if I do my very best, then that's all I can do. But I'm not over-giving, I'm not giving where it has not been requested, and I'm not giving when I don't have the energy to do that. Now, generally, I would wish to be generous in all times, but I also need to be measured because I've been over-generous in the past and been very stung or very exhausted. So the balance between your intuition and your intellect is a mighty thing. So I urge you to think about that, about where you are. It's a trajectory, a spectrum of where you might feel you could be. Now, I've written here, I think this is number 5. Think about the balance of evidence. So if something's telling you it's a 70-30 odds, generally that's how you feel. Well, you know, I'm a 70% girl, but 70% is often good enough. We don't always need 98% to go forward. And if we've got, you know, short odds, I think that's what you might call it. If you've got 60-40 odds, well, the 60% of the evidence is telling you to proceed. Proceed with caution. I often say go gently 100 times a day. Just go gently. Definitely make an effort, but go in a measured way so that you're not launched into something that isn't wise, but conversely, you're not so cautious that you're not living your life. So it's a delicate balance. I love it when a decision's 90-10. Isn't that lovely? When everything is stacked up and it makes life easier. So think about that when you're analysing decisions. I had to make huge decisions that resulted either in a great deal of suffering or perhaps less suffering. So if I got those decisions wrong, the ramifications, often for me or for other people, especially my lovely, lovely mum who suffered so much, and my dad, is enormous. So there are lots of decisions. Remember, Janie, Mitchie, it's lovely to see Mickey, it's lovely to see you. Welcome, darling. Put your business in the links. We're trying to promote people. I've decided that's the easiest way to do it. I'll try and remember. Janie has a lovely holiday cottage. Go and have a look. Gorgeous. So think about the management of that. And Susan, my darling, it's lovely to have you. Welcome, welcome. Susan has put a lovely post in the group. Look at it earlier this week about a sunflower. So we're trying to make good decisions. How do we make the wisest decisions? And if you're fitting well and you make wise decisions, you will soar. If you're not very well or you're dealing with some big stuff in life, making good decisions is of paramount importance. So I'm just going to run through the top 5. Don't make decisions on your best or worst days. Try and make it in the middle ground so you have the best outcome. Look at what the evidence is telling you. Consider a balance between your intellect and your intuition. Think about the percentage of the outcome. Sometimes it's fine to do a 70% decision and hope that that's good enough. We don't always have to have 98, 99% to go, but it's wonderful when we do. If we've got 55%, proceed with caution. But, live as much as you can as well. Now, I've written here one of the most important things that I think about a lot is managing our time and our energy. And we have, a finite amount of both. So people need to be worthy of both in your life because they are reliable, diligent, lovely, joyous, and they reciprocate. People have let you down in the past, you need to look at that evidence, and if they've done it repeatedly, then you learn from it. And also, it's all right to accept a sincere apology. Remember that too. Then I've written here, think it through. So what I try and do a lot of the time is I think through the layers of the consequences. So if I do this, then this is very likely to happen, then that could, then that could. You've got a sort of a set of stations in your trajectory of the train journey. But here's the thing, your train could go off on a different track. So remember, whatever you think will happen could happen perfectly as you suggest, slightly differently, unexpectedly differently, or massively differently. Or there could be something you could never have expected happen. So when you're thinking about consequences, think calmly and logically and broadly. I often think about when you're trying to deal with a situation where there are some challenging conversations to be had. Remember, whatever the other person has to say still has value in it, and to try not to think of them as the opposition or the opponent, but as your collaborator who will help you get to where you need to be. And if you go in with that intention, often you make the best decisions you can possible. So think about that. Now, post-it number 2. Also think about the risks. I know I'm very risk averse, but because I know that, I can proceed gently, cautiously, but wisely. So I was very nervous about doing a whole load of things, but I stacked myself up with safety nets. I was terrified to be self-employed. I put a post up the other day about there is no set path, just follow your heart. My wonderful friend sent me that when I started 15 years ago. So I put myself in the safest position possible. I had backup plans. I didn't spend vast amounts of money. I didn't take on things I couldn't cope with. I just did tiny steps, which led me to tiny triumphs. I made constantly wise decisions as I could, learnt from some big mistakes, learnt from some people who, didn't pay me or didn't show up or treated me badly. And, we're not going back, treasure. That's what it comes back to. You can have another turn, but, if you're going to not pay me, I can't work for free. So remember that you learn and proceed, and to know about the risks as well. Number 8. I've written here, seek wise advice. So when I first met Mr. Dinsdale and we were on this great adventure together about, becoming married and making a home, I didn't know if I would be well enough to live independently. And I remember somebody said to me, how do you feel about him being your carer? And when they said that, I thought, I nearly punched them, because I thought, well, we're each other's carers, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Just because I can't go running with him doesn't mean that, I'm totally dependent. But what it means is we had different strengths. And I had to be gracious about accepting that I didn't have the stamina that, a normal, healthy person had. And I had to be very careful about infections. And there was a whole load of baggage and stuff. But yet I had to trust my inner light that with wisdom would come progress. And he said to me when we were trying to find our home, he said, well, haven't you got a book on it? He said, you've always got a book on it. And I thought that was so interesting. He had such confidence that I would have learned how to do a thing. Now, I didn't have a book on how to find your home or how to be married, but I got some. So I read lots of books in our early marriage about how to have a strong unity. Pat, it's lovely to have you. Welcome. I'm talking about making good decisions. I think you'll like this. So find from wise experts the things you need to know. So I'm sorry if that's gone a bit dark. It's gone a bit funny here. Keep your fingers crossed. It's all right. So I always look to learn. And often the best places to learn are from charities, from organisations, from citizens' advice, from consumer groups, from experts in the field. Now remember, people are self-declared experts, but sometimes, you can find a great deal to help you. So look for wise external experts. This particularly dealing with people, you need them to be humble, clever and well-intentioned. As soon as they're arrogant, certain or looking after number one, you need to listen to that with much more care. So I would say get wise counsel. Now here's the other thing is, that's from people you don't know potentially. Get wise counsel from those that you do, who do not have a vested interest in the outcome. So I would ask my two best friends, my dad and my husband. And then I have a wisest mentor on the planet, and I would ask her. But interestingly about all of that is I ask myself first, and then I consult a little cabinet of great intellect and souls. And when I've done that, I know I've done as wisely as I can. I gather the information, and then quietly I try to discern what is wisest to do. I'm at a point now where I try and do my thinking first, then do some research, then come back to the thinking. When I was first having this group and making choices about branding and, you know, how I did things, is I'd put choices up and I'd say, please will you tell me which you think is best? And I would have already decided what I liked, and then I would listen to what, you know, essentially my people would say. And the thing that was hilarious is that people weren't thinking about that. They were just telling me their knee-jerk reactions, which was really helpful, but it was very, very diverse. And I could have gone in 50 different directions from opinions rather than fact. So just be aware of that. The nice man who's parked next to me still thinks I've gone mad. He thinks I'm having a conversation with myself. So he's got in the car now. So seek wise counsel, and don't seek counsel from people who A, know nothing about it, B, want an outcome that will help them, or C, you know, just throw out an opinion and not care the consequences. Be careful about those with whom you share your important decisions, and your small ones too. And funnily enough, remember, have some empathy in this. And this week I wasn't well enough to do something, and I could tell that, you know, if I did it, I'd end up in bed. And I still have to make very careful choices about my energy. And Kev looked at me and he said, you know, I really don't think you should go. I don't think you should do it. And then I said to him, okay, I'll be wise. I'll decide in the morning. And he said, I think you need to decide tonight. And, you know, we had this kind of to and fro. And then I just had a light bulb moment. After 18 years, I said, is this what it feels like when you've got flu and you're trying to go to work and I'm telling you not to go? And he said, yes. And I said, right. So suddenly I understood that his concern was the same as my concern is for him. Because, you know, people with ME never, ever want anybody to push when they've got an infection. So look at the other person's point of view with empathy and listen, and also discern it with some caution and some care. And then finally, here's a bonus one, because we're on number 10 now. Think about long-term decisions and short-term ones. If you're going to do something that will matter in a year, it needs more perspective and more time on it. If this is only going to matter in a week, it has less impetus. If it's going to matter this afternoon, realize the proportion it has in your life. And a wonderful, generous, wonderful friend of mine, who is now in heaven, used to say to me, will this matter in 5 years' time? And you can stress yourself about something that will not matter one jot. If it matters in a couple of hours, that's totally different. So think short term, think long term, and live to both of those, if that makes sense. And here's my final one. Number 3 just came with this. If you're just joining us, welcome. We're doing 11 because we started with 10, but here's the bonus one. Ways to make the wisest decisions is do the best you can and leave the rest to God. That's how I look at it. So do not berate yourself if something doesn't go very well. You will learn from it. There's only results. I love the line, there's no failures, there's only results. Oh, I think you've got to be quite robust to think that. But don't berate yourself, don't denigrate yourself, don't castigate, don't think, oh, I'm so stupid, I shouldn't have done this, or I wish I hadn't, or all of that. I call it stop it all. You've done the best that you can with the evidence available, and if it hasn't worked out perfectly or very well, you learn for next time. And I often say to my dad, we have the same conversation all the time, I wish I knew then what I know now. If I knew at 20 what I know now. Don't berate yourself. You're beautiful. Don't do it. You're clever and capable, and you're doing the best you can. The berating is completely undermining your goodness. And don't bully yourself. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. It's my favourite line in the whole of the Psalms. And that you are knitted together. Think about that. You're knitted together in your mother's womb. I love that so much. And I also find it really entertaining because I'm really, really tall and my mum was really tiny, and I don't know how she made me. But think about that. Think about when you've made a decision and it's gone well, you think, oh, I'm so grateful for that. Thank you, Lord. Please help me to keep as sensible as I can. And if it hasn't gone that well, help me to learn. What do I do next time that's slightly different and that I can be better from it? and have more energy and have more time with the people that I love. So do not berate yourself. Unless you've been absolutely ridiculous, you can berate yourself for a minute and a half, then stop it. Then speak to yourself as you would your best friend, your best person on the planet. How would you console them? Console yourself. Be kind, be wise, and just know that you are cherished, precious, and wonderful beyond measure. And however you show up in this world, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and we are better for having you. Better decisions make better lives. And remember the whole point of life, joy. Love, integrity, fortitude, energy, joy, order, and you. That's what Life Joy stands for. I look at those values all the time in every book I write, every live I do, every one-to-one counselling, every course I sell. And in all of that, we look to help you to think wisely, to speak wisely, to write wisely, and to live wisely. And when we do all of those, we love wisely. And it's an absolute sunflower circle. So I hope that helps, my friends. I hope I look a very funny colour on this back to me. So if I look horrendous, forgive me. I hope I look all right. But most importantly, I hope I sound all right, and that what you have gained from this helps you, whether it helps you this afternoon or in 5 years' time. So I'm going to go back and check the puppy. Somebody said to me last week, when's she not going to be a puppy, Beck? And I said, when she learns to behave. I think when she's 2, she's a year and a half now, she'll be fully grown. But we send you all our love. Thank you for your support, your care, your friendship, and I shall see you, God willing, in a week's time. And please keep commenting in the group. It keeps us alive, it keeps us fresh, and it keeps us entertained. I think the comment of the week was, I don't go to bed the same days I got up. I mean, who knew? But get to bed early, drink lots of water, look after yourself, do not berate yourself, love well, love generously, love vibrantly, and go gently, my friends. Take care, God bless, be safe, and thank you for having me.